jail, seek help, end the stigma. On the news this evening, lawyer says National Assembly should allow Supreme Court do its work. Delta State backs out of lawsuit challenging emergency rule in River State. Analysts assess opposition strength to challenge APC in 2027 elections. Farmers rush harvest in Rivers communities over flood warning. On the foreign scene, top UN court rejects Sudan's bid to sue UAE for genocide. I'm Sam Chinedu, and the news continues after the break. A lawyer, Justice Chineme Williams, says the National Assembly should allow the Supreme Court carry out its constitutional responsibilities without interference. Williams said this while speaking on Nigeria Info FM's Hard Facts in reaction to the National Assembly's appeal to the Supreme Court to dismiss a suit filed by 11 PDP governors challenging the declaration of a state of emergency in River State.
Tell me how somebody who calls himself a Democrat will circumvent the provision of the Constitution, suspend a governor of a state elected by the people. The National Assembly should allow Supreme Court do their work. If the Supreme Court finds merit in their case, good and fine. But people who circumvented the Constitution are the ones now talking about procedures. Is it not laughable?
Williams also said the National Assembly has no grounds to cite procedural issues when, according to him, it failed to follow constitutional processes in ratifying the emergency rule and suspension of an elected governor and State House of Assembly members.
If they feel what they did is constitutional, what is the fear? Why don't you file your defense? I am surprised that the National Assembly, who circumvented their constitutional powers, could not come back to talk of procedure. Did they follow procedure when they were doing voice vote in two-thirds? Is that what Constitution say? They have done the wrong thing. They say I go to court. Now the matter is in court. They have come to realize that there is something called procedure. Did they follow procedure when they were saying the I have it? National Assembly has erred. Let's also assume that the plaintiff in this case have erred. Let the Supreme Court determine.
In the meantime, Delta State has reportedly pulled out of the suit challenging President Bola Tinubu's declaration of a state of emergency in River State. This development comes about 12 days after Delta State Governor Sheriff Oborevwori and the entire PDP leadership in the state decamped to the APC and pledged their support to President Tinubu. Delta State was listed as one of the plaintiffs in the suit which governors of then 11 PDP states filed before the Apex Court. Aside from Delta, other states behind the suit were Adamawa, Enugu, Osun, Oyo, Bauchi, Akwa Ibom, Plateau, Taraba, Zamfara, and Bayelsa. They won the Apex Court to determine 6 constitutional questions, including whether the President of Nigeria can lawfully suspend or interfere with the offices of a governor and deputy governor and replace them with an unelected appointee under the guise of a state of emergency proclamation. However, as the Supreme Court, through the Chief Justice of Nigeria, CJN, Justice Kudirat Ekekere Ekun, is setting up a 7-man panel that will hear the constitutional matter, the plaintiffs suffered a depletion in their rank, with Delta State withdrawing from the case. Sources told Vanguard that Delta State Governor Oborevwori has already instructed the state legal team led by the Attorney General, Mr. Ekemejoro, to file a notice of discontinuance. Meanwhile, the National Assembly has queried the competence of the suit and the jurisdiction of the Apex Court to hear it. In its preliminary objection, the National Assembly said the suit is procedurally flawed and lacked merit. It argued that the court lacked the jurisdiction to entertain the suit and should award 1 billion naira in costs against the plaintiffs for filing what it termed a frivolous and speculative suit. It faulted the suit, saying it holds a memorandum of conditional appearance, adding that the governors failed to issue the statutorily required 3-month pre-action notice to the clerk of the National Assembly. It also argued that the governors did not secure resolutions from their state houses of assembly, a prerequisite for approaching the Supreme Court. In a related development, as a wave of defections continue to hit the PDP, political analysts are beginning to weigh in on what this could mean for the country's opposition forces ahead of the 2027 general elections. In Rivers State, the chairman of Zenith Labour Party, Ben Ogbobula, says all hope is not lost for the opposition. In an interview with correspondent Suibi Ruwari, Ogbobula expressed confidence that a strong coalition of opposition parties could still mount a serious challenge to the ruling party in the next elections.
You can see what is going on. For me, and as a party, I'm thinking that the coalition that is ongoing in other political parties will strengthen opposition party, despite the defection that is going on now. I'm sure that coalition will have a strong voice in the political arena. You know what happened during Jonathan time? We have to learn lesson from what happened. When Buhari had a CPC, other political about 3 or 4, they formed together and they put their strength and they removed Jonathan. So I'm feeling that if this opposition, the way they are going to make an impact in the political scene in Nigeria. Very so.
On his part, a political sociologist and government studies expert at the University of Port Harcourt, Professor Steve Wadu, says opposition parties in Nigeria are dead, largely because most politicians are only driven by personal gains rather than ideology or service.
Nigeria does not have any opposition party or any party that is in opposition. Nigeria does not even have a democratic political culture. There's a difference between party politics and political parties. So Nigeria has political parties, but Nigeria does not practice party politics. So I can tell you that there is no opposition in Nigeria. What we just have is pockets of political associations, which means like pocket of investors, political investors.
Professor Wadu, however, attributed corruption as the cause for the current wave of defections affecting the PDP-dominated states.
And more so, we can begin to look at other factors that are behind this cross-section. One of the factors behind, defection in Nigerian politics is corruption. Those who are caught up in corruption scandals that are in opposition parties will jump over to the other political parties so that they cannot be arrested also. So the anti-corruption struggle has become weaponized against those who are not in the ruling party.
Also, elder statesman Anab Saraigbe said the political dynamics between now and 2027 will reveal a lot about the strength or weakness of the opposition.
Politics is not only about grabbing power. Politics is all about service. When the people serve very well, the electorate will go for who serve them. If they can get all the governors and the people are not happy, they can still somersault and they can bring surprises. And don't forget, the bully and the harassment will not be the ultimate. That is why I said it is two-edged. Some dynamics can happen. And when those dynamics take place, it will change the directives again. That may not be the dynamics in the next 1 year. Let's see how the dynamics will play out in 2026. Then we can be able to project into what will happen in 2027.
Mr. Saraigbe also added that he would not be surprised to see even more PDP governors defect to the APC, including the suspended governor of Rivers State, Siminalayi Fubara.
Deflection or cross-capping or decamping is a regular phenomenon in politics. Anything can happen, provided that not justify the means. That is the end of it. I am not a PDP member. I was a PDP member. I was a APC member. I don't belong to any party now because there are no ideologies in the political parties today. And so I decided to stay out. So if anything can happen, there's nothing to surprise anybody. If the law that are inconsistent with the constitution are still applied, the judiciary is closing their eyes on them. Then what are we talking about? What is surprising again?
On 92.3 Nigeria Info.
Still to come, farmers rush harvest in Rivers communities over flood warning. Stay tuned. Back, farmers in Mbiama and Akinima communities in Ahoda West local government area of Rivers State are now harvesting their farm produce to reduce losses following a recent flood prediction by Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMET. The paramount ruler of Mbiama, Otovia Silvanus, and community leader of Akinima, Enyata Abieba, made this known to correspondent Oyinka Chiwonsu. They spoke on what their communities expect from the government. Meanwhile, the Permanent Secretary and Director of Flood, River State Ministry of Environment, declined to speak with our correspondent on how the government intends to mitigate the effects of flooding this year. In another development, fire destroyed properties worth millions of naira at the junction of Eliozo-Eneka Link Road. The incident, which happened on Friday night, affected the top floor of a 3-story building. A correspondent who visited the scene reports that the affected area is a furniture showroom, although the cause of the fire outbreak is still sketchy. The general manager of the facility, Kingdom Elugbara, said casualties were not recorded.
There was no casualty, no life was being claimed, no casualty entirely. Nobody sustained injury because of the incident. Nobody's in the hospital. During evacuation, we're trying to restore the facility. The other facilities are intact. The functional parts were anywhere was affected because of the fire incident.
Eyewitnesses, while commending the prompt response of the fire service, also said hoodlums took advantage of the opportunity to steal goods.
Fire caught here on Friday evening during around the 6. So call fire service. So the fire service come and try their best. That is why leave the up that burn.
Nobody know where the thing from. Nearly God just saved that day. Where the thing happen, people come, we call fire quench and then try, but only for the up now the thing do and no keep person. No happen for supermarkets. Then thief something, plenty thing lost. Then thief even watch this cost things. Plenty thing comes, but to thank God, nobody die. Nobody there, hospital, nothing.
Away from that, activities picked up in some private and public schools across Port Harcourt as they reopened today for third term. Parents were seen accompanying their children, some offering final words of encouragement before heading back home, while teachers and school staff welcome returning pupils. Despite current economic challenges, several parents expressed readiness for the new term. Speaking with our correspondents, they said they made necessary preparations, including saving in advance for school fees. Others said they reached agreements with school management to pay in installments.
The lecturers' fees paying immediately is a little challenge you have. They'll give you some time to get the school fees. Everything is ready, almost every except the cash, but the cash will be available soon.
So like my children, before now, they are well prepared. You set your children at least a week to when school will resume. Their uniforms should be in order, their books, everything in order. So as the school resumes today, all we need to do as a parent, I prepare my child and he's gone to school. You prepare ahead of time, not just that day.
I think we have to deliver as usual. We have to be up and doing so that they will be sound children like other.
On their part, some teachers say they are set for the term and eager to get back to teaching. However, not all were entirely optimistic. A teacher in a public school shared her concern over parents who fail to provide essential learning materials.
I'm well prepared. My notes ready. Everything about the teaching is ready. First week like this, we do have this challenge of them coming to school. Most of them don't come. And the first week, we'll be looking for them. We are just expecting the children to be in school.
I'll be very happy to see our children doing well, coming up with a good result. So I expect them to work hard this term. They will do well this term, more than the way they did last term.
Me, I will try my best and I'll still plead with their parents to also help me at home, because after school, most of them will go home and be playing. So I'll still beg them to help me in their own part.
Most of the parents will be telling you they don't have money to get book for their children. Then those of them that don't normally feed their children before coming to school, they don't eat. We encourage them, make sure you give your children breakfast and eat before coming to school so that they can concentrate in the learning.
A correspondent who visited some private and public schools in Port Harcourt reports that not many students return to school today, especially in public schools. School officials believe more students will come back by the middle of the week, as some parents are still getting ready. Meanwhile, a public school teacher has appealed to parents of public school pupils to become more involved in their children's education. Speaking in an interview, she urged them not to treat public schools as what she described as a dumping ground, but to support their children with homework and show more interest in their learning process.
I always tell parents, I give you the weakness of your child in the school. You give me the weakness of your child. What you observe academically from your child at home when it comes to book. When I'm working on the child's weakness in the school, you work on the child weakness at home. Not when we give children assignments to do. They don't do it. You don't teach your children at home. How many hours do they have with the teachers in the school? Parents are not actually playing their roles because they see government school as dumping ground. That's where they will just come, drop whatever they have and they get out. Teachers will do their own. It is left for them to continue. Let them put in more effort. Parents, put in more effort for the children and you will gain it, not we.
In other news, as World marks Hand Hygiene Day, a water, sanitation and hygiene specialist, Napoleon Ada, has called on residents of Rivers State to take proper hand hygiene more seriously. Speaking in an interview, Ada said regular hand washing prevents the spread of infections. He also appealed to the government to make functional hand washing facilities available to the public to promote healthy living and reduce the risk of disease outbreaks.
I want to urge Rivers people to celebrate and up their games as it reflects on behavioral pattern and hygiene attitude. We should always use soap to wash our hands at critical times. Government at all levels should provide public hand washing facilities to prevent infections. This call is not only for adults, it goes down to our schools, our offices, where we work and where we operate.
The theme for this year is It Might Be Gloves, It's Always Hand Hygiene. This theme emphasizes that while gloves are important in healthcare, they should never replace the practice of proper hand hygiene. Just in, the Senate has announced plans to work closely with the executive to address socio-political tensions, particularly the crisis in Rivers State. According to a statement issued on Monday ahead of resumption of plenary at the National Assembly, Leader of the Senate, Senator Opeyemi Bamidele, stated that the goal is to reconcile key stakeholders and resolve underlying issues in the broader interest of national stability and reconciliation across the country. The statement added that as lawmakers resume the upper chamber, first on the agenda is the further consideration of the tax reform bills 2024. On the international scene, the UN's top court has dismissed Sudan's case against the UAE, accusing the Gulf state of complicity in genocide. Sudan alleged the UAE supported the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF, in the Sudanese civil war, in which tens of thousands of people have died, forced millions from their homes, and left many facing famine. The UAE denied the accusations, branding the case political theatre and a publicity stunt. The International Court of Justice in The Hague ruled that because the UAE opted out of Article 9 of the Genocide Convention, it cannot be sued by other states over genocide allegations. On the news this evening, a lawyer, Justice Williams, says the National Assembly should allow the Supreme Court to do its work. Delta State has backed out of the lawsuit challenging the emergency rule in River State. Analysts have assessed the opposition's strength to challenge the APC in the 2027 elections. Farmers are rushing to harvest their crops in Mbiama and Akinima communities over flood warning. On the foreign scene, top UN court has rejected Sudan's bid to sue the UAE for genocide. The news was edited by Martha Okere. The Radio News team send an SMS or WhatsApp to 0808 721 7215. I'm Sam Chinedu. Thanks for listening.